Emma, and I am back today to talk with you guys about Wings of Fire, Darkness of Dragons, the 10th book in this series. This book, I've decided that this book is where I'm stopping with the whole Wings of Fire thing. It's a pretty good ending, I believe. It's a pretty good ending to the arc, and I don't know. I just have a feeling that it took me a while to get to the 9th and then this book, so I just believe that I'm not going to be able to have time for it anymore, as horrible as that sounds. But I do believe that this is where I should stop. It's been a good adventure for my childhood, and I just freaking love this book. Now, on this book, I gave it 3 stars on GoodReads. Meanwhile, I gave the book before this 5 stars. Even though I just said I love this book, it's not the best written book, but it's definitely not the worst. I'm telling you that right now. Oof. But I adore this book. It's probably going to be one of my most talked about books this year. Definitely. I've written down a couple things that I feel are pretty good talking points for this book. 3 pros and 3 cons that I can definitely say for sure. So let's get right into it. Alright, so the first pro, we're gonna go for the pros first. The first pro that we're gonna talk about is this book teaches some pretty important themes, I believe. It teaches 3 pretty major themes. One of the themes that it teaches that I personally really admire is the fact that it basically tells you that nobody should have to answer for the actions of their ancestors. Foeslayer is telling Darkstalker that just because that the earlier Ice Wings did something to them, that the Ice Wings nowadays, they can't be held accountable for it because they didn't do it. Like, on page 346, none of the Ice Wings alive today did anything to me, Foeslayer said firmly. Except for one who freed me from my prison. But you were imprisoned, he said, pouncing on that word. All this time, wasn't it awful? Don't you want revenge? I was never a vengeful dragon, she said with a sigh. It doesn't make sense to punish the Icewing tribe for what happened to us all those centuries ago. Queen Diamond is long gone. The war should have ended then. Time has moved on without us, and we should let it, not drag it back into the blood and fire of our old fight. Foeslayer is basically saying, just because they're Ice Wings does not mean that they are the same as the Ice Wings that came before them. It's a really powerful message that I really admire, the fact that Tweety Sutherland put it in here. It's a YA book, and it teaches that good of a lesson. I think that's really admirable. It can be used to resonate through a lot of situations nowadays, where it's like, just because somebody did something to you doesn't exactly mean that their children should be held accountable for it. Leading on to that, another thing that this book says is that revenge never ends. And that is something that I firmly believe in. It's a never-ending cycle of IOUs and she did this first or he did that first. This was like the last theme that I felt was really impactful. You yourself are responsible for your own actions. You cannot place the blame on something that you used to commit said action. It's proven on page 339 when Darkstalker is using an hourglass-like thing, contraption, if you will, in order to find out if his soul is still good. And it shows that his soul is pretty much 95% evil, basically. And, you know, he's all confused. Like, Darkstalker made a spell in order to protect his soul from being corrupted. But Keebly tells him, safe from your magic maybe, but not safe from your actions. And Darkstalker's like, what? And Keebly says, you didn't lose your soul because your magic ate it away slowly. You lost it because you chose to do terrible things over and over again. Each terrible thing, each betrayal, each murder added to this mountain. That's not the magic's fault. That's you. That's who you chose to be. That, right then and there, tells you that it's your actions that ultimately define who you are and who you choose to be. You ultimately have the choice to commit an action. Like, an object doesn't make you commit an action. You ultimately have the free will in order to make said decision and commit said act, whether it is benevolent or malevolent. Another thing I loved was the couples. I loved how pretty much all the couples turned out in this book. For example, I have a freaking list here, y'all. That's how serious I am about these couples. I love them, each and every one of them. There were 3 of them that worked out, and then there were 2 of them that I wished had, like come together. But the 2 that I wanted to work out were Thorn and Smolder. And I don't know, I wanted that whole thing with Thorn and Smolder because, I don't know, you saw them, yeah, you saw how close they were, but you never really got closure, or you never really saw what happened with them after the whole Onyx versus Thorn thing, which I kind of wanted a bit of closure on that, just to see, like what happened with Onyx and stuff like that, if she ever lost her desire for the throne. And then something that I've always wanted since the second book, guys, the couple that I've always wanted to happen is Riptide and Tsunami. And I know it's very far-fetched. It was far-fetched even in the second book when Tsunami and Riptide was even mentioned, basically. But I loved them together. I loved their teamwork. Tsunami is my favorite character. In this entire series, Tsunami is my girl. And I wanted her to end up with somebody that wouldn't necessarily squander her stubbornness and her hard-headedness and her impulsiveness, because that is Tsunami. I wanted somebody that would mesh with Tsunami's character. And I don't know, I feel like Riptide was the yang to Tsunami's yin. Then the 3 couples that I really did want to happen, happened. And they were Peril and Clay. And we've been waiting for that to happen. Come on, you guys. We've been waiting for this to happen. Then Kinkajou and Turtle. I really did enjoy that. It was like, okay, Turtle, you're really cute, and you do need somebody rambunctious in order to liven you up a little bit. And then Keebly and Moon. That whole love triangle with Keebly, Winter, and Moon was just a headache, because it was like, I loved both Keebly and Moon and Winter and Moon, but I had to choose. But the fact that Keebly and Moon got together, I was so happy. That leads me into another one of my pros. It's how Keebly and Moon's romance was written. That was so cute. I didn't find it cheesy at all. I found it so romantic and poetic at times. It's really prominent on page 224, for example, where he describes himself as a broken vase and Moon is the piece that would fit him together like a puzzle. Or on page 236, when he describes them, like the both of them together, like hugging, a mystery of cool scales and strong muscles and beating heart. The last example that I have is on page 251, when he describes her smile as all the moons and sun together, warm as gold coins in the desert sand. Get yourself a partner like Keebly. Like, he treated everything that she did, or every little detail about her, like it was the most important thing. I think romance like that is needed every once in a while, because it really gives depth to how much characters care about each other. Enough about the pros. It's time to get into these cons. The first con that I want to address is Winter's decharacterization at the very end. In my opinion, Winter got put on the back burner. With the whole Winter and Moon thing, I got why she wanted to be with Keebly instead of Winter, but her whole reasoning for it was just a little bit immature. From what I gathered, she didn't like Winter because he yelled at her. You're gonna throw away this guy's redeeming qualities, like all the redeeming qualities that he has, just because he yelled at you? And if it was so easy for Moon to overlook Winter's redeeming qualities, like the good qualities about Winter, over the fact that he yelled at her, and choose Keebly, then why did it take so long for you to choose? I personally believe that the other dragons didn't give him as much credit as he deserved for a lot of the decisions he made, and he was mistrusted a lot. especially by the dragons that were supposed to be his friends. For example, I thought that he deserved to know what happened to Darkstalker at the very end, because after all, Winter is an Icewing, and the Icewings were the ones that were pretty much almost decimated by Darkstalker. I thought he had a right to know, and he's one of the main characters. How does he not have the right to know what happened to the villain that's literally been trying to kill them all? Winter literally left his entire tribe behind. He left the Icewings in order to save his brother and go back to his friends because there was nothing else left for him. When Keebly and the others make that spell in order to separate the Nightwings and Darkstalker and the Icewings and, separate them to the other sides of the continent so that, they don't battle anymore, Winter gets swept along with the Icewings. And if there hadn't been an epilogue, we never would have heard about Winter again. I don't like that because Winter is a main character. How did he get sideswept that quickly to where if we hadn't had maybe 25 or so pages left of the book, we wouldn't have known what happened to literally one of the main characters who had one of his own books? The only real part in this book where he was treated as an actual main character was when he and Keebly were at the Sand Kingdom, and that's where, you really saw their friendship blossom, and that's where you actually saw them becoming closer friends. And I feel like that attributes to the fact that Keebly was the only one that really gave Winter any credit. It was the fact that Winter was basically demoted from one of Keebly's friends to basically Keebly's sidekick. After the whole Sandwing thing, he was just downgraded to a tag-along character after that. And it just disappointed me because a lot of people don't read epilogues. If those people don't read the epilogue in this book, and they like Winter, perchance, they're not going to know what happens to him. And that, to me, I believe is a failure on this book's part. The major con that stuck out for me was the fact that the romance was out of place at some times. For example, I love the fact that Turtle and Kinkajou got together, but it was just a little random, I believe. Before Turtle's book, you never heard anything about Turtle liking Kinkajou, like whatsoever. But then when Anemone finally casts that spell on Kinkajou to fall in love with Turtle, it's like, wow, wait a minute. Turtle has a thing for Kinkajou? Kinkajou has a thing for Turtle? It was like, wait, like, I like it, but where did this come from? It seemed insta-lovey, which is a trope that I know a lot of people do not like. Another romance that was very out of place, Anemone and Tamarin. You never saw any chemistry between the two of them. You never saw anything that even hinted in the slightest about a relationship for the both of them. And then all of a sudden, Anemone has a crush on Tamarin. It was in the epilogue, too. It goes back to my whole thing with Winter. If there wasn't an epilogue, you wouldn't have known what had happened to Winter, and then you also wouldn't have known about the gay hook that was apparently placed in there to draw more people into it. I just don't think it's right for a group of people to be represented by a pair of homosexual dragons whose chemistry was slapped into a book as a gay hook. Then my last con with this book, it's the fact that I feel like Sutherland's writing has gotten a little bit, I don't want to say sloppy because that's a little bit harsh, but she's definitely gotten goofier and sillier with her writing, which I believe is consequence to her trying to appeal to younger audiences, which is what these books are tailored to. Peril's point of view, because Peril's voice, we all know, is very hurried and impulsive. And, it's definitely shown through Sutherland's overuse of capitalization and the dash, and at some points when Sutherland tries to show that Peril is speaking very fast. She puts all the words all at once and still in capital letters. Desensitization of emphasis. And not only overuse of capitalization on Peril's point of view, but also the overuse of specific words. Like, for example, you can only use so many totallys, epics, and awesomes, or else it's gonna sound really childish and a bit cringy, in all honesty, because you think, oh, it's just a writer trying to appeal to the teens. It's just a writer, it's an older writer trying to seem hip, basically. And it's cringy and it's annoying after a while, because once you notice stuff like that, you really can't unsee it. So, apart from the things that I had problems with in this book, I did have a lot of fun reading this. It is a good ending, I believe, to this story arc. No matter how much I rag on this book, I will defend it with my life, with the prose that I have made, but I will also accept that it does have flaws. Every book has flaws. So that was my review for Wings of Fire, Darkness of Dragons by Tweet T. Sutherland, and I will be back with another review sometime. I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Bye!